Today's lecture is the 10th lecture in the series on good teaching. The last lecture was on item analysis also, and this is also item analysis, theory and practice. Many people do not know that it is possible to very accurately specify how good or how bad a particular item has been in a question paper, meaning thereby that we set questions or test items in a test paper for a particular purpose. Some are meant to differentiate between very good students and not so good students. That means discriminate against good or not so good students. This test item should have high discrimination index. There are questions which are supposed to be simple, easy, others are supposed to be not so easy. But we do not talk about how easy or how difficult it is in numerical terms. That means precisely how difficult, how it is, meaning we do not give an index. We do not say this question is or this test item is 0.27 in terms of difficulty index or 0.45 or 0.96. So, we do not give that kind of numerical value on the difficulty index. But difficulty index, we do not talk about difficulty index, we talk about facilitation value or FV. Then there is a very important thing. We set multiple choice questions. It could be 4 item, 5 item, 6 item or any. Mostly 4 item multiple choice questions are set. That means you choose between 4 alternatives, one of them is right, the other 3 are wrong. This is the commonest form. But most of us do not know that it is possible to very accurately measure the efficiency of each alternative. That means if a particular alternative was of particular use, of any use or not, that can be measured. That means if we put a particular alternative which nobody chooses ever, it is obviously not a good alternative. If we choose an alternative which, that means let us say A, B, C, D are the 4 alternatives and B is the correct answer. And if you find C, sometimes a good student chooses C, but most of the times the students who are poor are choosing C. That means A, B, C, D are the 4 alternatives, B is the actual correct answer, A, C and D are called distractors. Their purpose is to distract students who are not sure of the answer. They cannot give arbitrary answer. So, they are called distractors. B is the correct answer, A, C, D are distractors. We need to find out how good the distractors is. As I said earlier, let us say C is a distractor and you find nobody ever chooses C. That means everybody understands that this is a distractor. So, we should leave out this distractor and replace it by something else. If on the other hand D is a distractor and you find most of the time the students who are poor, that means they have not done their homework properly, they are choosing D, that means that distractors is a good distractor. So, the effectiveness of distractor D is good because poor students are picking it up not knowing whether that is right or not, but rarely would you find a good student picking up D. So, D in that case is a good distractor. effectiveness of distractor D is very good. A similarly could be picked up by sometimes good students, sometimes not so good students. So, effectiveness of distractor A is not very good. So, what we summarize, we can say that in a multiple choice question, it is perfectly possible for us to measure the effectiveness of distractors A, B, C, D or whatever, how many number it might be. And if they are not satisfactory, they can be replaced. Discrimination index, on the other hand, is saying that only a good student or only good students should be able to answer that correctly, and not so good students, poor, academically poor students should not be able to answer that correctly. Then it has got a high discrimination index, and you would set such particular test items in a paper where the purpose is to discriminate against, the purpose is norm referenced. That means who is better than whom. If that is the purpose, we should set a paper where the test items have high discrimination index. We have covered discrimination index, effectiveness of discrimination. The third important characteristics of a test item is how difficult or how easy it is, that is the facilitation value, FV, and we can measure that also equally, that if which one has a high facilitation value, well, if very simply, if we find that test item number 20, which is a multiple choice question, nobody has been able to answer that correctly, then it has very high or very low facilitation value. That means high difficulty index. If everybody is able to answer it correctly, then there is no point setting that question, and it has a very high facilitation value, which means it is a very easy question. So, by a right mixture of test items which has right kind of facilitation value, right kind of discrimination index, and by choosing discriminators which have the right kind of discriminator index value, we can set a good paper. So, this is the purpose of item analysis, and you can do that. It is perfectly possible to do that using a computer today. There are standard programs available. This is rather a large table to explain. I am sorry that it is not very easily seen, so I will explain that with care if it is possible. Oh, okay. Just a minute, give me a minute. Here is the table. The purpose of this table is to measure various characteristics of a multiple choice question which has 4 choices, one of them is right, the other 3 are wrong. This can be automated and computerized, and the answers can be obtained very, very easily. In fact, it is possible to have 500 or more students in a class, and at the end of the class, every class, it is perfectly possible to conduct a 5-minute quiz using a multiple choice, maybe 2 or 3 multiple choice questions, every class, at the end of every class, and get the result immediately. It is also possible to give the feedback to the students, not whether they are right or wrong, but also where they have gone right and where they have gone wrong. I have personally done that. I may or may not have the time to explain that fully. But let us look at this. Now, let us look at this table, which will be able to, from this table we will be able to work out all the major characteristics of a test item. This table shows that there are 20 multiple choice questions. 1 to 20 multiple choice questions, each one. Below each multiple choice question is a key response. That means it's a multiple choice question with 4 alternatives. One of them is a correct answer and the other 3 are wrong answer. They are the distractors. So there's 1 right answer and 3 distractors. In this case, question number 1, C is the right answer. So A, B, D are the distractors. Question number 2, A is the right answer, B, C, D are the distractors. In that fashion, it continues. Let us say question number 9 or test item multiple choice question number 9. It has 4 choices. B is the correct answer. A, C, D are distractors. Okay, we hope we have understood that. And here is some additional information which we are not going to use for the current time being. Multiple choice questions, this means odd and this means even. We are not going to use that for the time being. So let's continue with that. Student response. We have conducted a multiple choice test with this 20 multiple choice questions, and these are the student responses. Student number 1, or at the end we have graded them, and whoever is the topmost, who has scored maximum, we have put that as number 1. This student has a rank of 1, and we find that he has got all of this right. The black indicates that they are all right. The questions are right. C is the correct answer, he has answered C. A is the correct answer, he has answered A. C is the correct answer, he has answered C. And excepting for item number 20, where he has answered D rather than C, and item number 12, where the correct answer is C, he has answered A. All the rest 20 he has answered correctly. So he has got 18 out of 20 correct. And here is that 18, that the odd number 10 correct and even number 8 correct. We should not have introduced the odd and even here, but there is a purpose that if we can continue, that we can show what the odd and even are. So the correct answers are 18. Student number 2, which we have marked, also has answered 2 wrong. Question number 4 or item number 4 is answered wrongly D instead of C, and similarly 20 is marked D rather than, A rather than C. So he also has scored 18, and it goes on in that fashion. These A, B, this particular student, if you look at, say student number 7, he's got item number 7 wrong. The correct answer should have been C, is marked A. This should have been B. Sorry, this is a mistake of mine. This he is not wrong, he is right. B is the right answer. He's given it right, but I have marked it wrongly. Right answer is D, and is marked B in that fashion. So we have a table where we are showing the response of each student to each of the test items, showing what is the correct answer and what the students have actually marked. You will be surprised to see what inferences we can draw from this. Let's look at it. Item analysis. 3 important characteristics of test items. Facilitation value. You know, when you go to a company, when you go to a large hotel, there is facilitation desk. That means the people in that facilitation desk make your job easy. So, facilitation means making things easy. Facilitation value, in that case, if the facilitation value is 1, it's simple, easy, easiest. Everybody will be able to answer it. If the facilitation value is 0, it would mean very difficult and nobody would be able to answer it. So, FV means basically coded how easy it is it? If everyone answered it right, then FV is 1. No one answered it right, FV is 0. Half the students answered it right, FV is 0.5. Our calculation immediately becomes dead simple. We can go back and see, calculate the FV. Let's look at item number 1. Item number 1, there were 4 alternatives, A, B, C and D. There are 4 alternatives. C with that asterisk mark is the correct answer, and we find there were 30 students in the class. 30 students in the class. I have divided these 30 students in 2 groups with an in-between group which I ignore. The in-between group is from 9 to 22, which I ignore. This is, so the upper 27% we make one group. We call that upper group. And upper 27% of 30 is, how much is that? 9, approximately 8. So, the top 8 students are the upper 27%. And if you ask me why 27%, it is for a statistical reason. Again, we would not get into that for the time being, but it could have been 25%, it could have been 30%, it could have been 35% also, but we have taken as 27% as the upper group. The lower group, that means in terms of ability, academic ability, the lower group is again 27%. 27% of 30 is 8. So, the lower 8, 22 to 30 are called the lower group, and in between groups we do not measure, we have left out. Why? Because it is quite possible that when we begin to measure such things, the number of students in a class could be 120 or 110, and I'll have to deal with very large number of students, very large amount of data. We could sample that data much more easily by not taking the whole 100 or 120, but taking only upper 27% and lower 27%. So, that makes my life much easier. As I said, why 27%? It's for a statistical reason. So, repeating, instead of taking all students from a very large number of student population of, let's say, 120 or 150, we take only a smaller sample, 27% from the top and 27% of the bottom, saying these are the top students, these are the bottom students. So we've got upper group, and the lower group. Facilitation value, we have said everyone answered it right, FB is equal to 1. No one answered it right, FB is equal to 0. Half the students answered it right, FB is equal to 0.5. We are now saying RU, meaning U stands for upper group. R stands for right. Right answers for the upper group we denote by RU. Right answer for the lower group we call RL. And small n is the number of students in each group. So, facilitation value is equal to R over n. That means total right answer, that means upper group and lower group, total right answer divided by total number of students, 2n. Total right answer, why? Because we are saying total right answer including upper group and lower group. So that is the total right answer. So if there is a question, if there are 30 students, there are 8 in the upper and 8 in the lower, and there are 7 students who have answered it correctly from the upper group and 1 student who has answered it correctly from the lower group, the total number of right answers is 7 plus 1 out of 16 students, 8 in the upper group and 8 in the lower group. So, RU means right answer of the upper group, RL means right answer in the lower group. That covers all the right answers, upper group and lower group together. Everybody has answered it correctly. These are the people who have answered it correctly. How many students? Upper group at 8 students, n. Lower group at 8 students, n. So 2n. So 2n is the denominator. So this index is called the FV, facilitation value. Next, we will give some examples a little later. Next is discrimination index. Discrimination index is how good is this particular test items in separating the top scorers from the bottom scorers. What we are trying to measure is, in a norm-referenced test, we are trying to find out who is number 1, who is number 2, who is number 3, who is number 4 out of a student population of, let us say, 100. So we have to be able to differentiate between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 out of a student population of 100. So we have to use such tools or such test items which can do such fine separation, which means very high discrimination index test items are to be used, which can be answered by a good student and not so good student very, very finely. That is the discrimination index. And discrimination index is, in that case, RU minus RL over n. The number of students who have answered it correctly in the top group and the number of students minus the number of students who have answered it correctly in the bottom group, this divided by n. Let's take some examples. Item 1, 4 items, and I find the upper 27%, if I count, of those upper 27, only 1 has chosen A. No one has chosen B. 7 have chosen C, which is the correct answer, and no one has chosen D. It tells me immediately that these really are the upper group. Why? 7 of them out of 8 have chosen the correct answer? C. No one has chosen D, which is a distractor. No one has chosen B, which is a distractor. No one has chosen A, or only one person has chosen A, which is a distractor. So, only one distractor has been chosen by the group, and 7 right answers have been chosen by the group. If you look at the lower 27%, you again find something very interesting. C is the correct answer. Only one of the lower group has chosen that, and that is why they are the lower group. B is a distractor. 7 students have chosen B as answer, which means that they are not confident of the correct answer. They are choosing a wrong distractor as the correct answer. D, nobody has chosen. That's again a very interesting thing. Even the lower group is not choosing D. Upper group has not chosen, nobody in the upper group has chosen D, nobody in the lower group has chosen D. And A, only nobody has chosen A in the lower group. So, what is the effectiveness of distractor? It's saying the effectiveness of distractor is 1. Why is it 1? The 1, not only 1, the effectiveness of the distractor is 1. Effectiveness of distractor is defined as number of people who have chosen the lower group minus the number of people who have chosen the upper group divided by n. It's quite obvious, because a distractor's purpose is to distract. That means if I find that more number of people are answering it from the lower group and less number of people are answering from the top, choosing it from the upper group, then that distractor is very effective. And in this case, that is exactly what has happened. In this case, you find lower group, nobody has chosen a distractor. A is a distractor. It's not supposed to be answered by the top group, but the top group has answered. One person from the top group has chosen A wrongly. Lower group has realized and identified that this is a distractor, so they have not chosen it. So, 0 minus 1 divided by 8 number of students is the effectiveness of distractor, and it becomes minus 0.125. That minus says that it's a distractor which has been chosen by the upper group, but not by the lower group. You could do the same thing for item number 7, and I'll leave the item number 14, item number 1 and item number 6. I'll leave that for you as homework. To show you a little bit of interesting thing, if you look at D, the effectiveness of distractor in D is 0, because nobody in the upper group or nobody in the lower group has chosen 0, D. So, D is really a useless. Everybody understands whether it's the most poor, academically poor student or most good students, academically good students, everybody understands that 0, D is not a distractor. Similarly, A is also a poor distractor, because only one student has got it wrong and nobody else has got it wrong. And you'll find similar kinds of things in item 7 and more. Thank you.